You are listening to Missed Apex Podcast. We love MotoGP. Hello and welcome to Missed Apex MotoGP Podcast. This is a show put together by MotoGP fans pretending to be experts. We aim to have a race review show ready for a midweek commute. We may just be punters, but we love to talk. A boiling hot Jerez served up a scintillating result as Alex Marquez capitalised on his brother's mistake to take an epic first win, whilst Fabio Quartararo produced some heroics in front of a huge Spanish crowd. As ever, I'm your host Kyle Power, and today I am joined just by one other MotoGP delinquent, and that's Danny Henney. How's it going, Danny?
Hey Kyle, good to be back, just the two of us. I'm sure this will be an interesting show. We'll certainly keep it full.
Absolutely. Very interesting race, and wow, this championship had potential to be very, very boring, but somehow the Marquezes keep it very, very interesting. So going into the weekend then, an overview, we start off with some positive news about Jorge Martin, which is really nice. He had a positive medical update. I don't know what the technical term for it, so I'm just going to call it the lung hole. The lung hole has healed. His rib fractures are well on the way to healing. 8 out of the 11, I think, are healing pretty well. And so that's all looking really good. Obviously, there's no sign of when he's going to return, but it's good to have a positive update. I think he's back in Spain now.
We need him getting back to fitness as well, don't we? Because he's missing from the battle. I mean, we don't know what the bike really is capable of. He looked quite good when he come back, but you know, he needs to get back fit, get back involved, and it's another something else to get in the mix of the fight up front, hopefully.
Absolutely, because Agura's showing that the bike's got some potential. Like, Bez has been super disappointing from a really strong sort of pre-season testing, but Agura's shown it. So I'm sure a fully fit Jorge Martin with some actual practice under his belt is going to be in the mix, like you say, and it's great. So talking about being in the mix, the championship coming into this round, Marc Marquez is leading it after snatching it back from his brother at the previous round. He's got a 17-point lead over Alex, with Bagnaia a further 26 back, Morbidelli in 4th, with Digi in 5th. So, practice and quali. And one of the highlights of the practice was, wow, the track was super, super hot. So it was really hot, slippy conditions. And the first thing I want to talk about really is, like, it was really impressive, I thought, from Alex Marquez in the actual practice session, obviously, which decides who goes through to Q2. Following his brother, has a big old crash, going into a really fast crash, and really beats himself up. Looks like he hurts his wrist, spends most of the session recovering back to the pits, and in the med centre, gets on his spare bike, and bang, ends up the session fastest, which, Dan, I think that's mega impressive to have that mental resolve, having a big egg beater of a crash and then going fastest. Mega quick, and it was just a precursor for the rest of the weekend, wasn't it? He had really good late race pace.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of a good racer as well. If you can take a knock, go down and get back on the bike and get straight back into the rhythm and not have that, I say fear factor. Obviously, none of them really fear anything. They're blooming bike racers, but if you can take a knock, get down, you know, your plan really not go to how you expected it to be, jump straight back on the bike, not only be competitive, but top the session as well, shows that the ability and the potential he's got.
Absolutely. It always amazes me, the bravery of MotoGP riders, or is it bravery or just chronic lack of memory? They just seem to don't.
It's interesting you say that, because I was watching it with the missus at the weekend, and I says to her, huge respect for bike racers. You know, we do 4 wheels, and that's, you know, comes with its own risk. But I said, I don't know how bike racers do it. They're just so talented, the knocks they get, unbelievable. And all you can do is take your hat off to them. I mean, the amount they get the bike sliding through the corners, especially onto the back straight down to turn 6, was just incredible. I can't imagine what it feels like being sideways on a bike close to 180 mile an hour. Just, yeah,
crazy. Pant filling, I would imagine, was how it feels.
Yes,
like.
very much
absolutely. So. Amazing going. And so, yeah, really impressive stuff from Alex Marquez. But in free practice 2, which doesn't really have much bearing on the weekend, but it kind of did. That was a bruising free practice 2. There was some massive, it was a crash fest. The track was a little bit cooler than the other free practices, but we had a Costa go down, Morbidelli, Rins twice, and the second one being a really big crash, and he was super beaten up. And it's horrible watching him go through the gravel because he's still not right with his leg. He looks really broken, bless him, Rins. He's having a horrible time. But one of the big headlines was Bagnaia had a big old crash and a fast left-hander as well, and wrecked his bike ahead of quali. So he only had one bike, really. So that wasn't looking that wasn't looking good for him. But Fabio Quartararo and Maverick Vinales, both of them were showing good pace all weekend as well. So going into quali, Maverick, I think, had Maverick Vinales had a bit of a tech issue, so he actually had to go through Q1, but he got through Q1 with Bezzecchi, and then going into Q2, wow, Mark Marquez's first lap smashed the lap record straight into the 35.6s, which is crazy. And then he made a bit of a mess of the rest of the session, didn't improve it, and it was all looking sort of kind of nailed on for a Marquez pole. And then heroics from Fabio Quartararo on that Yamaha. He was looking quick. He almost did it. And then, I don't know, were you surprised? I was shocked. Like, I don't think anybody expected a Yamaha pole.
Yeah, silent assassin, wasn't he? I was like you. Marquez come out the blocks, put that marker down early on, and I thought, that's game over. I can't see anybody getting close to it. They all eventually started getting closer, and then obviously he went out. He was on a quick lap towards the end. It looked like he was going to set the benchmark even further, and then lost a lot of time in the last couple of corners. But yeah, Quartararo just snuck up. But he was looking quick at the last round, wasn't he? He looked like he was on for a good result in qualifying as well. But yeah, great result. I think he's such a likeable rider. He was great to watch when he won the championship. It was great to watch when he were battling for the championship when he didn't win it. And he was just, I think he just brings something to the party. And as we've said, we need Yamaha and Honda to get back into this race. And at the minute, Yamaha look like they're winning that battle between the two.
Absolutely. And this is the first time it's looked like that really this year, because Honda's been the kind of the surprise revelation of the thing. But this is awesome for Yamaha to see that. So Quartararo snatches an extremely surprising pole position from Marc Marquez, Bagnaia in third, and you have to say that was a pretty good performance. That was a pretty solid performance from Bagnaia, knowing he only had essentially one bike and he couldn't flick between sessions. Like he had to nail it, and you could see that in his first lap. I think he was really cautious. You could see that he was erring aside of caution, and then maybe took the brain out a bit for the second lap and just went for it.
Well, we say, don't we? He's a smart rider. If you like riders or racers or whoever who are smart people and think about it and be methodical as they in their approach to what they're going to do, Bagnaia ticks all the boxes. He don't really push too hard. He looks at the longer term picture, and he'll risk it when he needs to, but he's very much thinks about the whole race weekend rather than just going for the showbiz and glitz of qualifying pole. But yeah, good to see him get a bit of pace. He needs to start battling with Marc Marquez, because at the minute Marc's starting to run away with it.
Absolutely. So Bagnaia getting a good front row. Alex Marquez heading up the second row in fourth, with Morbidelli fifth, and Maverick Vinales getting a great sixth, which is showing that pace was really, really good. So let's see how their paces panned out in the sprint review. Okay, so on to the sprint review, and we had a great sort of couple of opening laps with Quartararo holds the lead. Marquez tries to get up the inside of him, goes a bit wide, and Quartararo just shoves it straight back underneath him at turn two. It's brilliant. That was it. It was Marquez made the whole shot, didn't he? When it went wide, and Quartararo just dive bombed him into turn two. Like, really, really good, and it just shows that you could kind of see he was kind of over the limit, and it was going a bit win or bin. But I don't know, it was great to see, and so brilliant sort of opening lap, and then it was inevitable, with that straight line deficit. You can see Mark got a really good run. I think it's out turn 5, the fast right-hander, down into turn 6, which is it called dry? It always used to be called dry sack hairpin, and that name always used to make me.
I know we like to battle each other with knowledge of circuits and that, but you got me on this one. Herep is not one of my stronger ones.
It was definitely called dry sack, because I remember that from, again, we're going to get an F1 reference in early. We haven't done one for the last sort of show, so sorry, we haven't offended anybody with F1 references, but we're going to get a reference in, because I know it's called dry sack hairpin from the infamous 97 championship finale with our boy Schumacher having a bit of a mare with Villeneuve in there. That's why I knew it was called dry sack, but everyone keeps calling it turn 6, so maybe they've changed it to a lesser funny sounding name now. But going into turn 6, Mark goes up the inside, and it's kind of a block pass. He levels him, but you can see Quartararo is just not giving it up. Absolutely not giving it up, is he?
No, I think Quartararo done what most people do in that situation when you've not been at the front battling for quite a while, is you grab it with both hands and go for it. And I think he come out after the race and said those couple of minutes he was leading were magical, like amazing. And I don't blame him. He looks exciting. And sometimes, as we've seen, if you can get to the front of a race, even if you're not on the fastest equipment, you can manage the race and you can sneak a victory depending on what goes on behind you. So I think he thought he'd got a chance to go for it. He's gone for the whole shot. He's gone get out front early. Had a bit of a nibble from Mark and then chucked it back at him and thought, if I can have a bit of a break here, maybe the guys behind will start battling and I can pull away for a little bit. But I don't blame him going for it. But unfortunately, it was risky with what he did when he got down to the corner.
Yeah, exactly. He just got leveled by Mark, and you can see him. He says he started to get this wobble on, but yeah, in my opinion, he was hard on the brakes on the slight outside dusty line, and he was carrying so much speed in there. Because you actually look, Mark went a little deep as well, so he was so late on the brakes, and Quartararo was leveling him with the bike wobbling and twitching, and just turned it in. So I've seen some crazy comments online of people saying it's Marquez's fault. It was just a bit of hard racing. So I think Quartararo even said himself he was just trying to hang on and he was over the limit, but he didn't really mind. I did mind personally because I really wanted him to win, and tight track like Jerez, and particularly in this modern aero MotoGP era, as we've seen in the main race, it's really, really difficult to follow and pass now, unfortunately. So I love technical innovation. I love the way the bikes look. I think the wings look fantastic. But I want to sack them off, really. I want to go back to old school, no aero MotoGP would be great. I think the bikes wouldn't look as cool, but the racing would be closer, surely. So unfortunately, the rest of that race wasn't really that much closer. It was after that, it was kind of a bit of a damp squib, really, with Mark just kind of escapes at the front. Mark escapes at the front, and then I think in all of the that was in the first lap. Alex Marquez managed to, I think, jump ahead of Bagnaia and have a really good first lap. So he was in, so he was in second, and then it was just status quo really. Again, Bagnaia suffering again with the smaller fuel tank and the same issues he keeps saying. He just says he keeps losing the front, and he's really struggling to follow bikes and keeps losing the front. And
difficult for him as well, isn't it? Because he's got to. We said last show he's got to sort that out, because now the points go across the whole weekend. It's not just in the Sunday race. You can't just be a Sunday man anymore. You've got to be able to take points in the Saturday races. And at the minute, Marquez is cleaning up in the sprint races. All right, he's making a few errors in the Sunday races, but it's not going to be long before Bagnaia can't really rely on that. So I don't really know what to say he's got to find, because he's got such experience, he's got such pace. Like I say, he's the thinking rider, and the fuel tank, I'm not convinced by it. I must admit, when you look into it, I can't understand why the smaller fuel tank would give him such issues when he's as experienced as what he is. You would expect him to be able to find a way to ride around it or something, but
fine margins, I guess. It's just the tiny, you know how fine it is, so just tiny little margins. He says it upsets the balance of the bike, and he struggles then to follow. So not a brilliant rest of the race entertainment wise. So Marc Marquez comes through, takes his pretty much now customary sprint win from his brother Alex, Bagnaia in third, Morbidelli in his almost customary fourth. Now is sort of there. Aldeguer, brilliant fifth again, looking really, really quick. Aldeguer's like brilliant. He's really coming to the fore now. And Digi in sixth. Now, Digi, you were probably not going to get to mention Digi much, but Digi actually said he got a bit lost over the weekend, tried all sorts of things on Friday, and there's such limited sort of practice time that he kind of lost his way, really, with the setup. So that's a bit of a save, really, in sixth. But, of course, he's on the GP25 as well. So we can talk about it a bit later, but there might be a bit of an issue with the GP25, and it's be really interesting to see what Digi says.
I mean, we've got as well, haven't we? We said it before, that the top six are pretty much all guaranteed Ducati positions. If you don't have a crash, you've probably got a 95% chance you're going to finish in the top six. And you've just got to, depending on what position that's going to be, you're probably not going to be in the top two unless you're Marc Marquez or Alex Marquez at the minute. But behind that, it's the battle for anyone. But the rest of the field have got to try and find something, because Ducati are really starting to dominate. And as they said across the show over the weekend, they actually think that Ducati want competition from other people, because they understand how boring it can appear when you are watching the races, that the same manufacturers dominating the sport currently, and has done for quite a while.
Absolutely. And Yeah, hats off to Ducati. And we saw this last season, didn't we, with how fair they are in the championship battle. Like their own official team, they got beat by the customer team on the official bike, and they made it absolutely fair. They didn't give Bagnaia maybe some of the upgrades that he kind of liked, which ironically was the 2025 chassis, which they've turned down this season, which is really, really odd. So they kept it super, super fair. And kudos to Ducati, because also with agreeing the new concession rules, so they have got these new concession rules in, and they had to have agreement from all manufacturers. Now, if this was maybe Formula One, you'd say there's probably not that much goodwill, is there? If someone's dominating, they're not going to have goodwill to allow the others to catch up. But Ducati seem to always leave the door open and do like this competition. So respect, Ducati.
It's funny, isn't it? Like you say, when it comes to F1, because you've kind of got Ferrari in F1, and you've got Ducati and obviously MotoGP. They operate so differently. I know they're different companies, etc., but Ferrari do historically anyway, the underhand tactics, try and, go in here, go in there, try and kind of get one over on everybody. Ducati, I really do enjoy the fact that they go, yeah, we're competitive, but we want to see other people come through. We're not going to give a massive advantage to Bagnaia last season. We're going to give Martin a genuine shot. I think, Gigi and that, I think, actually enjoy the fact that it's close. They want to win, but I think they actually enjoy the pure spirit of the competition of racing and don't want to, have like a trick device they're going to use what's going to beat everybody else. So Absolutely. It's a pleasure to see. We don't see it very often, so definitely make the most of it while it carries on.
Yeah, I think it's a reflection on MotoGP as well in general. I think everyone there, bike races, it's just different. It's a different world, isn't it, completely? And I think so yeah, with all that going on in the sprint, there was somebody in 7th, which is quite impressive, and that was Maverick Vinales again, best of the rest, 7th, 5 seconds ahead of Acosta, and he was a top KTM again, which is really good, just showing that the Qatar might have not been a fluke. So that was the sprint. Let's move on and talk about the Grand Prix. So there's a couple of headlines we want to talk about the Grand Prix, and as ever on this show, rather than do a step-by-step chronological order of what happened, we pick up a few topics and we try to talk about all of the major talking points. So we've put this in well, I said in no particular order. There is a bit of an order here, because I think what we need to talk about first is your tip for the season, Danny. Your crazy, put your neck on the line, crazy tip of who was going to be really good this season, and we all pretty much laughed at you. Alex Marquez is no longer the bridesmaid. He's come to the fore. What a Grand Prix from Alex Marquez. Amazing. As soon as he saw his brother go down, he said to himself, this is my time to shine. And it wasn't like he just inherited a nice, easy, clean sort of a lead. He had to pass, during the race, he had to pass Bagnaia and he had to pass Quartararo. And he did such a good job of that. Like, his pass was really clean on Bagnaia into the final corner, but into turn 1, his pass on Quartararo, wow, that was I don't think the camera really did it justice. Like, he come from quite far back, and what a massive lunge.
Yeah, I think he's just, as you say, I called it. I had a feeling that Alex Marquez was going to have a solid season after watching the testing and seeing how he's gone on, and I've always been quite impressed with him. I liked him in the lower formulas. He's just got a nice persona about him, can be very quick on his day, can be very crashy on his day also. Makes quite a few rash decisions now and again, a bit through eagerness, but he is still very young when you think about it. He's not quite got the age that a couple of the others. I mean, he's no Espargaro, is he really? He's not knocking on that far, but fantastic race. Absolutely fantastic race. Lovely move on Quartararo to just shuffle him off the lines a little bit going in there. Came from quite far back, as you said, and more importantly, no contact. I thought there was at least going to have a bit of argy-bargy as they got in there. He was going to lock up a little bit. But really nice. Stood the Quartararo up going through the corner and then hit the front, won the race. But I think what most impressed me about him was he didn't rush the race when he was behind it. Once Mark had gone down, he just sat, followed Bagnaia, chose his moment, went past Bagnaia, sat behind Quartararo. He didn't get to him like we see sometimes where they'll get onto the back of someone, and we know the famous rule in racing, attack as quick as you can to catch him off guard. He was quite happy to sit and follow. Sat, followed, studied his opponent, and then waited till roughly about halfway through the race and then made the move at the start of lap 11, and that was all she wrote.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just looking back to my notes to see which lap it was when he actually did the block pass onto Fabio Quartararo, because when I see him lunging like that, I was almost watching between my fingers because I just had an image of Rossi and Stoner in there, and I'm just like, oh, he's going to tuck the front and he's going to skittle Quartararo out, and that will do. There are factions of fans. The Marquezes are not very popular on certain things, and I was just thinking, oh no, this is going to get very toxic.
Thought he was going to hear the quote again of "ambitions outweighed your talent."
Yeah, exactly. It was that move and that famous line from Stoner, and I just thought, oh my God, please don't. Well, for everyone on the sake of the sport, please don't skittle out Quartararo on a heroic wide. I mean, that would be absolutely gutting for him, but he didn't. He got it stopped. He did really well. He pulled away, and he just controlled the race. He was just eking out a little bit each lap. Just put like 1 second into them, like almost instantly. Like that first lap where he got the lead, he absolutely nailed it. He got a point over second pretty much immediately, eked it out to a second. I think by the end he eked it out to 2 seconds gap, but that dropped back to like 1.5 at the end, because another thing I loved, he was waving to the crowd on the final lap. I love that. Give the crowd a little bit of a wave. It's like I'm terrified when I see stuff like that, because you're just asking for it. You're asking to go down and look very silly.
How many times when we've done a karting, you've been egotistical towards the end of the race, gave a wave or something, locked up and had a silly spin in the last corner and lost the race, or made a silly mistake just not concentrating. The famous people in multiple sports have done it, but it was great. I think what I really enjoy seeing with Alex is he had quite a few tyre issues at the start of the season. It looked like he was burning the tyre out or using more of the tyre to keep the pace to try and go with Mark. And I think we've not really seen that in the last couple of rounds. Certainly in Qatar, when he made that move, had the contact, as we said on the show, we thought he was going to drop back and kind of, you wouldn't really hear from him again. But he kept his head down, kept the tyre, come back through the pack to get a solid result as well. So I think he's starting to, not mould, but learn more about what you need to be able to win races. He's got the first one off the board, and we all know that's the hardest one to do. So the next round's going to be interesting, because now he's done it, and he's got there. The only thing I would say he's got to stop doing is he still keeps putting himself down, and understandably so. His brother is Mark, where he's saying, look, I'm not in a championship. I'm up against Mark. It is Mark Marquez I'm battling at the end of the day. But I do think, just, if you live with your rival as well, if it was me and you living together, I'd be giving you a bit of niggle all the time. Just to get you set up before we go. So hopefully he can start to do that and get a bit into Mark. But it'd be great to see him. It'd be lovely if he could win another couple of races before the end of the season.
That'll be brilliant. And yeah, that's funny. Jules, our co-host Jules in the group chat, has got a bit of a bee in his bonnet about Alex Marquez saying his Mark's too strong and stuff like that. I think he's a bit of a realist, but you're right. It's a bit more of like a maybe self-deprecating pessimist, maybe, of like going about it. But I just think he's a bit of a realist. He's been in his brother's shadow his whole life and his whole career. So maybe now this is going to give him the belief. Maybe he's going to start believing like, wow, I can maybe win this thing. And hey, look, so after 5 rounds, he's leading the championship again. This is the second time, and this is not a flash in the pan. So I have to ask the question, surely now, well, people like myself who pretty much wrote him off and say, nah, he's going to start crashing, it's all going to go downhill. Surely we have to start considering him as a genuine title threat, especially if his brother keeps chucking it down the road and Bagnaia keeps not taking advantage of it and choking. Alex Marquez can just keep it consistent. If he can just keep doing this, surely he's got a great shot at winning the title.
You have to say as well, at the minute, he's the only person who can hold a candle to Marc Marquez in the races. Bagnaia's done all right in one, but on terms of ultimate pace, he's the only one who's getting close. And, he's even still a little bit off here and there, but I can't see where challenge comes from elsewhere. Bagnaia's just not consistent enough at the minute, not showing the pace. No one else really on a Ducati is showing any pace to try and get up at the front. I think you might get flashes of brilliance from maybe Morbidelli at a track, what suits him quite well. Digi might come out and do one as well, but I just can't see a battle coming from anywhere else. The only person who's got half a chance at the minute is Alex. I'm just glad I called it at the start of the year.
Yes, you did. I think I might owe you a pint. Let's see at the end of the year before it's going to take a bit. It takes a lot to get me to put my hands in my pocket, but I'll tell you what, if Alex Marquez does end up winning the championship, I'll let you buy me a pint. Deal. Done.
Deal. Yeah, it'd be worth it. If Alex wins it, that'll be money well spent.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. So really, really, really good race. But his pace on the Friday in practice, his long run, and you mentioned before the tyre wear sort of thing, like his long run was looking arguably the strongest. Actually, he was looking in before the race. There's a couple of predictions of if him and Mark get out up front, Alex might be able to challenge here. This is the closest he's been. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see them fighting too hard, but we almost saw disaster from him on lap 1 going into turn 6. But God, like it looked like it wasn't a lunge. I don't think it was an intentional lunge at all. We've seen this from Mark before when he harpooned, what was it, Miguel Oliveira, I think a couple of years ago, like horribly on the brakes. Looked like Alex just had a big bobble on the front end, had to let the brake off and just run through. And I thought he was going to harpoon Mark. And that was really close. Harpoon in front, he goes, and that was been heart in throat. And again, how he didn't tuck the front and go down on the dusty outside and did a Quattararo. So he lost a load of time there, but oof.
I was more impressed he kept 4th place. Like, I watched it again earlier just to get back up to speed. I can't believe how deep he goes, just stops it, V's the corner, gets back on the throttle. And Vinales has got quite a good run on him, to be fair. And he just squirts straight back past him, takes the inside and holds 4th.
Well, yeah, what was impressive, because as he comes back on, he's leveled with Aldeguer. Is there, so he's out accelerated him, and then just instantly sticks a really hard and ballsy move and a fast left-hander on Maverick. It just instantly just shoves it up there. It's like, wow, okay, you mean business, like absolute business. And he did say himself afterwards, he was kicking himself for that mistake because he lost loads of time and knew he didn't have to panic. So amazing from Alex. Great seeing you win it. And I love the scenes in Parc Ferme. I love seeing a bit of emotion, and he was crying and he's bawling his eyes out, and it was really good. And when I saw Mark walking back to the garage, I'm like, oh, Mark, like, you've got to go and congratulate his brother. And he did. And what I don't think any of the coverage sort of really commented on it. Mark trying to get into Parc Ferme was quite funny. There was a guy in the way, and Mark just grabs this bloke and just yanks him out of the way so he can climb over the wall to go through the garages to get into Parc Ferme to then congratulate his brother. So that was really nice to see, and also really cool, nice words from Pecco as well, and Bagnaia. He was just like, hats off to the crowd and the fans. Yeah, he's technically in enemy territory, but the crowd at Jerez were brilliant. There's no booing. They really appreciate the talent. There was no toxicity or anything, and it's really cool. Like Pecco, some lovely words afterwards, and really congratulated Alex. And I think
like you say, what I really like was his, I say celebration. It wasn't really like a celebration like we used to see from Rossi and a couple of the other ones, but it was great to see him down there with the crowd. My favourite part was when he tried to chuck his gloves and they didn't get over the fence. And I thought that'd destroy you when you just come off. But it was brilliant. Fired his boot over, and they were saying about, it'd be a big scrap over that. I think someone's tent was blowing away. It was just great to see the passion and emotion. And as we said, winning your first race. I mean, like I said, we've done karting and win your first. That's miles below MotoGP. So I can't imagine what it feels like to win a race in front of that many people at your home track and everybody is screaming your name. I think Hodgie said in the commentary, it's just memories you'll keep with you for a lifetime, and such a pleasure to watch a solid talent do that, and be rejoiced for it by his country as well.
Absolutely. And talking about solid talents and heroic performances, let's move on to our second topic. I don't think we can say any more superlatives or big up Alex Marquez any more than we already have. The result speaks for themselves. He has snatched the championship lead back. Epic home Grand Prix win, brilliant. So let's go on to second topic, and Fabio Quartararo. He stayed on it this time, didn't bin it on the thing, held the lead for quite a while, for like 11 laps. But then when he got past, I was like, oh, here we go, he's probably going to plummet. Solid, absolutely solid. Coming home, managing to bring it home in second place and holding Bagnaia off behind him, that's incredible. On the Yamaha, and I reckon they're losing 0.2, maybe 0.3 on the straights. Luckily, down to Jerez, the straights are quite short, but that must have been horrible, Dan. Like when he's on the brakes going into that corner, he must have been thinking it's coming. Like every lap, he must be thinking, expecting a big red Ducati to appear right beside him, like to block past him. But it never came. He had pace to keep back at bay.
Yeah, I think the worst feeling you could have is when you're out front and you've not really got the pace to pull away, you know the quicker guys are behind you and they're going to get you at some point. And as you say, it's a horrible feeling because you are on the absolute limit.
The
Knowing
hunted.
one mistake, you miss a breaking point by a little bit, run slightly wide, someone's going to steal through up the inside. And then, you know, it's a bit different if you've got tools to fight with, but he hasn't really got the tools to fight with. So he knows his only chance is to stay out front, because when Marquez went past, as much as I was disappointed he'd been overtaken, I was more disappointed he hadn't got the tools to fight back with, because they even said in commentary that you're just not going to see him get a chance unless Alex made a mistake in a corner. He's never going to blow past him on a straight. He's never really going to get a chance because, yes, he's very fast through the corners on that Yami, but there's just not enough of him into a realistic overtaking spot. Maybe the end of the lap into the last corner you could have if you could stay close. But he's already blasted off down the straight away from you and pulled a couple of attempts. So it was a great ride to see from him. But yeah, it must have been a frustrating ordeal for him up at the front. And the worst thing, I think, is you'd go a lap or two, you'd think, yeah, I'm going to get over to it. Great, I've had my time in the sunshine. I've been at the front. I've led the race. I've got us some coverage. Here we go. The more laps you do at the front when you've not got the tools to fight with and you are in the lead, it's horrible because you start to believe you could win the race. And I think if you asked him, I'd probably sound lap 10, he thought, I've got a shot at this. And then obviously Alex went past and away we went, and we know how that ended. But fantastic ride. He's really started to get some form this season, I think. He's managing the best off the equipment he's got. They're getting closer and closer round by round, it seems. You know, a win is never usually far behind a pole. All right, it's never usually battling against strong, dominant Ducatis. But I think if there was a wet race, I think he might have a chance of stealing one. So fingers crossed he continues to perform as well as he's done.
Yep, and it's Le Mans in a couple of weeks. This is home race, and that's already got huge crowds. I bet it's going to be absolutely packed out to the rivals, and it's been known to have some slightly dodgy weather as well. So as you said, if we could have a bit of a wet Le Mans, maybe the win is there. And also, we're recording this on Monday, so there was a test session today on Monday, a crucial test at Jerez, and they tested a new engine, not the V4. They tested a new inline-4 engine, and really positive. They said it's a bit more power and looks really good. And I think they're both himself and Rins are both going to use that at Le Mans. So he's going to have a couple more horses at his disposal there, which is going to be really good. And that's their major deficit, is power and being able to use the power and get it on the road as well. So that was really good, because more often than not, we've seen this with Honda especially. Horsepower just on its own doesn't really equate to more performance, because it needs to be usable power, and that's been one of the problems of the Honda, which has been super aggressive power delivery and aggressive engine. So it seems like it's really positive. They have a nice engine with a little bit of a power increase, but you could see the lack of power in the lines he was taking, these swooping corner speed arc lines. It was like he was on I'm harping back to the two-stroke days now, but I remember there's like the 125s and the 250 sort of lines, like really fast sliding, not even sliding, like wheels in line, like perfect, just swooping.
I'll tell you who he reminded me of, Jorge Lorenzo. Watching him out front of the race and silky smooth, going from curb to curb, not making any mistakes. I thought he just reminded me of Lorenzo out front going. But
that's a great point, actually.
Yeah, he's just getting better and better, and he is still, young relatively when it comes to being a racer. And it wasn't that long ago he won the championship.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the season before he won the championship, when he was on the Petronas bike, it was just the battles he had with Marquez. It was epic. It was really, really good. So
was it Thailand where they had that big battle into the last corner, and he kept going for an amazing race.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Can we go back to those days, please, with less aero, and they can have these epic battles? But brilliant. So I'd forgotten. So obviously there's concession rules in MotoGP, where we mentioned this earlier, where Ducati and the other manufacturers have agreed to let the Japanese manufacturers catch up. But I didn't realise it had changed. So I always thought, if you get a dry weather podium, you lose your concessions. And I'm like, oh no, they're going to lose their concessions now, and we might not see this V4 coming in. But no, it doesn't work like that anymore. So the concession rules, basically, if they stay under 35% of Ducati's constructor score, they still class as rank D in the concession list, which means they've got carte blanche. Basically, they can test with their race riders. They can make a load of technical changes. do that. Not that many aero changes. Still only allowed a couple of aero changes, but sort of engine configurations and stuff like that. So Yamaha, keep going, keep doing it thing, but don't score too many points. And I guess Rins is having a mare this season, an absolute mare, bless him. Jack Miller, a few flashes. Oliveira obviously is injured and the unluckiest rider in history, probably. So I don't think they're at risk of scoring too many points, but that's a little thing to have in the back of the mind. They'd like to keep their concessions, I think, this year.
It's funny you should bring Rins up because I can't remember Rins doing anything so far this season. And Miller's another interesting one because I thought Miller looked quite good at the start of the season. He had a few flashes of having a bit of turn of pace.
Great at Kota, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was the one. I was trying to figure out which race it was. But yeah, he looked really strong at one race. And I thought, Jack's going to turn the corner here. But Rins, I don't mean to dig him out, but I can't think of, and this is how bad a season he's having, I probably can think more what Marini's done than what Rins has done on the Yamaha. And that's how, and Marini's really been struggling. So shame, hopefully he starts to do something because he's had some fantastic races in the past.
He's multiple Grand Prix winner. Like Rins is absolutely no slouch. Was he Moto2 world champion as well? Was he Moto2 or 250 world champion?
Oh God, you're catching me.
I can't remember. I think he was.
I just remember the win he had against Mark at Silverstone. Incredible battle with him when
on
he
the Suzuki.
On the Suzuki when he picked him over the line.
I was actually sat on that corner. I was sat on Woodcut when they sort of pipped him over the line. Yeah, I remember I saw that. That was absolutely awesome. But Rins, in his defence, I didn't quite realise because he hasn't been getting much coverage at all, really. But he's had some horrible injuries the last couple of years, and his leg is still really gammy. Like you see, he's really limping, hobbling around. So I don't think Rins is full fitness whatsoever. But I'll be surprised if he keeps his ride. But it'd be great to see Rins back because again, mega rider, very popular rider in the paddock as well. It'd be great to see him back. But what else can we say about Fabio? Like just awesome. I don't think he went wide. He didn't make any mistakes. He just didn't do anything, and it was just great to see. And the whole paddock as well. And again, Pecco, great comments. Just Pecco said what Quattraro has done today is amazing. He's on a slower bike than us, and he's beaten us. So.
He's also got one of the coolest nicknames going in El Diablo, and you've got to start getting some cool performances and some solid results when you're called El Diablo. You can't be riding around the back with that nickname.
Absolutely. And I think the Yamaha's a beautiful looking bike. I personally think the Aprilia is the best looking bike, but I love the paint scheme on the Yamahas as well. And I like the weird moustache aero they have on the front. I think it's a sweet looking bike. So I'd like to see it at the front a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd probably say the Yam is good looking. See, I liked Trackhouse last season. I thought Trackhouse was my favourite bike by miles for delivery. I thought it looked incredible. But I've actually grown quite fond of the Grassini one. When I first saw it, I thought, ooh, I don't like that. But I don't know why. It's
Palmer violet on me. Yeah, it's really weird. Talking about growing, I'm going to do a little bit of a host interlude. If this show's growing on you or if it's absolutely offending you, then why not let us know? You can send us an email at mistapexmoto@gmail.com. That's mistapexmoto@gmail.com. Or you can follow us on Twitter at mistapexmoto. You can go and give it a go. I need to be a bit more active on Twitter, and we will be moving over to Blue Sky very, very shortly. Once I pull my finger out, we will be doing that very, very shortly. But please do keep sending in your feedback, and we do take it on. We read all the comments, and we keep up on it. So yeah, feedback is always welcome. So why not send us an email? mistapexmoto@gmail.com. Okay, so our third point I want to talk about, and yeah, kind of the elephant in the room really, another Marc Marquez mistake. That's now two times in 5 Grand Prix races that is binned it. But this is a bit of a different one because before the crash, let's reel it back a little bit. Epic first lap battle with Bagnaia, and fair play Pecco Bagnaia, because this is the first thing, and I called it in our group chat. I did actually call it. I was like, if Bagnaia gets anywhere near Marquez, he will take huge risks. He will take massive risks to pass him. And when Mark put in quite a brave move on him in turn 8, I think a really fast left-hander, the corner that Mark ended up going down in the end, really fast thing, but Bagnaia straight back up the inside of him in that right-hander. And this is almost the mirror of their epic battle they had here last year, and they were leaning on each other. But wow, Dan, like, I couldn't believe the cutting back. When Bagnaia got up the inside of Mark, you knew Bagnaia was going to go wide because he basically just let the brakes off. Mark cut underneath him, did the same, had a bit of a slide. Bagnaia cutting back underneath him again. I thought they were going to lock, they were going to just slightly half wheel each other and tip each other off, because I don't think you could have got a silver Rizzler paper between Bagnaia's front tyre and Mark's rear tyre. Exquisitely judged by Bagnaia.
Great racing, wasn't it? When Bagnaia went through, I just thought, oh, he's put his big boy pants on today. He's come to battle and try and get one over here. And Mark was a bit of a wounded animal. He'd not quite got the start what he was expecting.
Yeah.
But fantastic first lap. And as you say, when Mark went through at turn 8, I thought, that's it, job done. He's so fast through there. Job done. He's not going to come back. But he didn't defend, did he? He just went for the normal racing line. And I actually thought, oh, was he too close to Quartararo? I watched it back earlier and thought, no, there's loads of space. So Mark's thought he's got the job done going past Bagnaia in that corner. Left it open. Bagnaia's flew back up the inside. And then, I wouldn't say World War III, but it's kind of commenced off the battle then. And it was great. A little bit of argy-bargy. I personally like a little bit of that. Nothing too crazy, but a little bit of a tip and tap here and there. Brilliant scene. I think it showed that although Bagnaia is struggling, he's here to battle, and when he gets a chance, he will stick one to Mark. And it was a bit of a slap across the face, I thought, that Mark's been getting all the success, and Bagnaia were like, nope, if you want to beat me, fair enough when you're out front, but when it comes to wheel-to-wheel battling, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. And he actually come off better. I was actually surprised Bagnaia came off the best out of the two when they were battling, because we know what Mark's like. He's usually quite happy to say take a fall with his main competitor if he needs to. So yeah, it was quite clean, really, when you think about it.
No, absolutely. It was really clean. And Bagnaia himself said in his interview afterwards, he was like, Mark wouldn't have expected me to come back on these on a turn 9, so I essentially just went for it. And it just shows the importance of these first lap battles, like these first lap battles, because they know the problem of aero and then following and your front tyre pressure and whatnot. But it's interesting. So the Mark crash, so it was lap 3, wasn't it, when he went down?
Yeah.
And he was taking loads of time out of him, that left-hander. But Mark himself, he said he's baffled by the crash, and he was like, because I knew once I lost the Mark basically said once he'd lost that first lap salvo and battle with Pecco, that he was just sitting there cruising and waiting for the second half of the race when he's really strong on worn tyres. So he says he was baffled why it went down. But the commentary picked this up as well on TNT Sport. And I was kind of saying this to myself. I was watching it with my partner. I said to her, like, and I was like, oh, Mark looks flustered. And she was like, yep, looks a bit flustered. And I'm just like, don't do anything stupid. Like, he's going to do something silly. And it looked like he just took way too much speed into that corner. Like, he's ridiculous in left-hand corners anyway. But I don't know, do you think it was a case of he was cruising and had an unexpected crash, or do you think he's just saying that to save a bit of face and he was indeed a little bit flustered?
I think I'm going to go with what Hodgie kind of said in commentary. I think I'm not sure if he was flustered, but I think he was so fast turn 8, and Hodgie brought it up where he said, like, why are you pushing to go even faster through the corner? You're teching the multiple time out of everybody. You're by far the fastest. And I think and I only say this because I could relate to doing something like this. You go, I'm that fast through that corner, I'm just going to take a little bit more and get right on the back of them going into the infield. And I think he's just pushed a little bit too much and obviously just dropped the front. And unfortunately, in this instance, it wasn't one of the cases where he could pick the bike back up and carry on with one of his, miracle saves that he's well known for doing. But
he kind of had a miracle. Well, say a miracle. He kind of had a really good comeback, because he was like 23rd and pretty much last when he got back on the thing, and he was missing most of the left-hand side of his bike. All the aero was gone. It was the holes in the fairing. To be honest, I'm quite surprised he didn't get a meatball flag, a black and orange flag saying you have to pull in, because if you watch the race back, you will see those little bits of red Ducati fairing being scattered like confetti all over the track, carbon fibre coming out. So I'm amazed he didn't actually get a meatball flag there. Like, I thought he was going to be told to pull in.
The difference this time, though, was when he had a foot peg compared to last time. He ain't got to
Well,
rest
yes.
his foot on the exhaust as he's going around and melt his boot.
It's also the Spanish Grand Prix as well. I guess.
There is
I
that.
don't. Yeah, I don't think they'd really want to. I think the officials wanted to get out of the track that night and go home in one piece. So maybe not. But he had a really strong comeback actually, and once he kind of cleaned his tyres up and got settled, his pace was actually really quick. He was matching leaders. So, did it? I think it was great that Alex won, but I think we were kind of denied a bit of an exciting end to the race, because I think Mark's plan was just going to sit there until half race distance. Then we were going to get another battle with Bagnaia, because Bagnaia again couldn't do anything really. He was struggle. He was just sat behind Quartararo. Now this race, this is a little bit of an interesting point here actually, and we can discuss this because Bagnaia had gave quite a very interesting interview about this actually, and kind of almost kind of backs kind of Mark up and kind of not defends Mark, but his Bagnaia's been saying, like, on this GP25, he has got issues in fast corners, and when he follows another rider, he can't get close, and he starts losing the front everywhere. Don't know whether it's the aero, and he said compared to his data on the GP24, he can't do what he was doing on the GP24, or Alex Marquez is doing, looking at last year. So he's kind of inferring that there might be a bit of an issue with the GP25 and following, because he goes, he really, really struggles. And that kind of backs up what Mark was saying, just that he was just like, I don't know why I crashed. Well, I think we can all see why you crashed. You took way too much speed into the corner. Yeah. But with Bagnaia saying essentially the same thing, that saying when you're following another rider, it's really hard and you start losing the front everywhere. And let's face it, Mark, apart from the first round, Mark hasn't really been doing much following. Mark has been out front pretty much, and not following that sort of closely in these sort of conditions. So I don't know. I think that's really interesting point. And another little caveat, not to defend Mark too much here, because he clearly made a mistake. He clearly. But yeah, you kind of alluded to it earlier. Bad start. He struggled to get his front whole shot device engaged, but also I think he expected to take the lead into turn one and run off and win the race. So surely his front tyre pressure, with a stupid tyre pressure rule, his front tyre pressure probably would have been set higher than everyone else's. So that's why he was really desperate and fighting so hard at Bagnaia to try and stay ahead. But once that happened, so he's probably got slightly higher tyre pressure than everyone. It's a bit slippery and he's trying to take too much out of it. So you have to say, silly mistake and silly crash from Mark. It's just unnecessary. But how typically Mark Marquez is that? Like, you're dominating and do something silly.
I nearly put into the WhatsApp group, funnily enough, when we were messaging through the race, and said, there it is again, look. The only person who can beat Marc Marquez is Marc Marquez. He's his own worst enemy. It's great. Even my missus says to me when we're watching it, she says, why does everybody like him? Doesn't he always crash? I said, well, he does have a few crashes, yeah. I said, but fortunately for him, he wins more than he crashes. I said, but that's part of his appeal. He's always, personally, while I like Mark, he's always on the ragged edge and he is always entertainment. Now, it's not always all good, but you know, if you took him out of the race in the competitive form what he's in, the race would be worse for it, because he just provides a bit of action in there. And I think you just knew, didn't you? Going back to the first lap battle with Bagnaia, you just knew he was going to do something. That was either going to go and do an amazing race and pass everybody and win the race, be ultimate dominant, or he was going to push and hit the deck. And, you know, it was 50-50 when we get in that bit. And I think you also hit the nail on the head for me earlier. I think he was flustered a little bit. I think he did have a longer term game plan, as he said. And I think you can fluster him if you get on top of him quick in the early part of the race. I think we saw it at Qatar as well, when his brother kind of had a bit of a nibble and nipped past. But he was a bit more reserved back there. I think he had a lot more tools to his disposal. He's got a big long straight to blast past everybody. At Jerez, a lot different. It's not as easy to overtake.
Really, really hard to overtake. So, and that was what Bagnaia was struggling with massively. So again, your teammate's gone down, your dominant teammate, you are struggling. This is your time to shine and capitalise. Bagnaia should be winning that race. It shouldn't be a customer GP24, unless there is this mystery problem with the GP25. But you'd have to say that was a weak performance from Bagnaia. Yes, his teammates binned it. You could argue it was a stronger performance than Mark because he stayed on the bike, but he finished behind a Yamaha. And he couldn't get close. He didn't, a couple of points, he looked like he was getting close enough, but he never looked like he was actually going to make a move. And and he still says he's struggling and he wasn't that happy. And, you know, he's 20 points off the championship lead now. Yes, he was 27 coming into the weekend, so you could say he's made 7 points, but he should be capitalising. And the fact that he's 19 points behind Mark, and Mark has binned it 2 out of 5 GPs.
Yeah.
This is surely the alarm bells are now ringing. And there was, a crucial test today in Jerez. And Bagnaia said this is going to be the most important day of the season for me because I need to try to get on top of the bike. And we haven't heard his thoughts yet from the test, but looking at the results, he was P19, 1.5 seconds behind Mark. We don't know, he was going for the feeling and maybe didn't do a time attack, but not exactly positive signs there. He needs to sort it out and quick.
The struggling part for Bagnaia is he's not at any race yet been the fastest. You know what I mean? Like, there's not one race we've gone to yet. There's been, if you include the sprints, there's been 10 races, obviously 5 at the same different tracks. But I can't think of one point where I thought Bagnaia looked the fastest rider on track. Now, Mark will always have his crashes. That's just his personality. That's how he goes racing. But the hare will not, the tortoise will not beat the hare with the methodology he's trying to employ it. It's got to have some pace at some point. He cannot just keep relying or win a championship on Mark hitting the deck. Mark will crash, but he will win more than he crashes. And at the minute, as you say, Alex is probably going to finish second in the championship, and he's probably going to finish second by a long way looking at Bagnaia's form, because the points Mark has lost, as you said, if you put him on top, I think it's 49 points he's lost potentially. So
yeah, 50, yeah.
Yeah, he could be nearly 3 Sunday races anyway in front of Bagnaia. That's a massively long way off after just 5 rounds of the championship. This could be a hell of a long season for Bagnaia the way it's going. And as you say, today was the one he's been putting his money on, the test. I'm going to test the parts, etc. And from the results, it's not looked like it's delivered. So he looks like
no.
He's going to have to
Let's
try
see what he
something
says.
else.
Yeah, let's see what it says. I haven't quite seen an interview from him yet, but yeah, 20 points off the lead. It's not looking great. And Mark kind of alluded to this a little bit. I don't know whether this was a backhanded dig. Mark's little interview after the race, and he was like, yeah, and he goes, we've got the pace, that's positive, but I'm just crashing. That's annoying. I need to stop the pace. I need to stop the mistakes. But at least I've got the pace, and I know I'm really, really fast. I'd be really worried if I was crashing and I wasn't fast. And I think that might have been a little, well, Bagnaia's not been crashing, but I think that was a little dig. And it was like, don't worry, I just need to stop crashing, but I've got you all covered. I don't know. It's interesting. So, again, silly mistake from Mark, but wow. He's making this championship much closer than it needs to be. So it's kind of good. It's great for the spectators that it happens because it's closing the championship up. And there's only 1 point in it at the top between the brothers. And wow, if it keeps going the way it's going, we're going all the way to the wire. So we're getting short on time. Let's move on to some honourable mentions. And I want to talk about Maverick Vinales. He looked like, at one point, I thought he was going to threaten the podium and threaten Bagnaia. He come in P4, amazing, and it just shows that Qatar was no fluke whatsoever, and he's pretty much on top of this KTM. And well, people keep putting 20Ps into Mav, and we've seen this so many times, Danny, where he's been really good at the start of the season. He's changed manufacturers, he's been really, really good, and then he just vanishes. I'm surprised he hasn't vanished. This is 2 consecutive rounds where he's been really good. He's gotten his top KTM. He was 5 seconds ahead of Binder and Acosta, who was 6th and 7th.
There was a point, weren't they, where it looked like he was going to just ride straight up to Bagnaia and ride past him. Really closed him down towards the end of the race as well. And you just thought, again, it's just the enigma that is Maverick Vinales, isn't it? You can turn up and obliterate everybody, or he can turn up and be non-existent, or he can have one of his even crazier weekends where he qualifies up near the front and at the end of lap 1 he's 17th or something, and you think, what's happened to Maverick? But
it's great. Let's cash this in. Like, it's amazing, and long may it continue. I'm amazed. I did not expect, particularly in after the test in Buriram, it was looking like it was looking pretty tragic. But to be fair to him, he did say it's all normal. This is fine, like I will get on top of it, and I kind of didn't really believe it. But let's not forget, Mav's changed load of manufacturers. This is not his first rodeo. He knows what he's doing, and he's doing really, really, really well. And it's great to see. Hopefully, the rest of the KTMs can look what he's doing on the bike or the setup that he's using, because Acosta's lost, it would seem. He's gone back to a 24 spec for this round. Acosta's gone off the boil, and I think that relationship's going a bit sour between him and KTM. They're desperate to keep him, but I think he's going to be moving. Like, it's all gone a bit off the boil. Binder, again, been a bit it's not been great. Again, it's been solid but not great, and it's not looked great for KTM. And Maverick Vinales has been the shining beacon for them. So,
who would have picked that at the start of the season, weren't it? When we were talking about riders coming into it, Maverick wasn't, with regards to KTMs anyway, Maverick was nowhere near my pick to say he's going to be the top KTM this year. And at the minute, he's looking like he's going to be.
I was saying, we're all on the Acosta freight train, aren't we? On Acosta
Acosta's been, I wouldn't say non-existent, but we all come into this season thinking Acosta was going to take the step up. Personally, I thought Acosta was going to have a win by now. I thought, the competition, he would have been up at the front, being on a better bike than what he had. It was all positivity, but again, he's been relatively quiet. Whether that's he's learning, and sometimes the second season he's a lot harder than the first. But yeah, Maverick's making all the other KTM riders at the minute look a bit amateurish, should I say?
Yeah, he is. He is indeed. Someone else I want to talk about as well. It was lovely to see Aleix back in the race, back in the paddock on that experimental Honda, and he was doing really, really well. And it just goes to show that Honda in general were going really, really well. Here's on the development one. He was running a strong P14, and we saw him have a really good little ding-dong battle with Marc Marquez. They get on pretty well, but Mark passed him, and Aleix is just like, nah, mate. Like, he just comes straight back on him. It was brilliant. Yeah, it was really good. But then Mark put a really rude and rough move on him in turn one and ran him right out to the white line. He was like, no, get back in your box, son. like, I'm coming through. And Mark was on the limit. I thought Mark was going to tuck the front again. Like, Mark was really on the limit to that. But really good to see Aleix. Really good pace. He actually finished in P14, but got the dreaded tyre pressure rule to come down. But first race on a Honda, I think he did really, really well.
Yeah, and so he should do with his experience as well, but he's a great racer. Absolutely love Aleix. Great to see him come back, get a solid result for the expectations that he had. And good little bit of a battle, good some airtime on the TV as well with Mark going through. Hopefully we get him to do a few more rides before the end of the season. Still looks like he's not lost a lot of the pace what he had. He was given as good as he could get.
Yeah, none at all. And with the concessions being ranked D in concessions, Honda are allowed to have 6 wild cards this year, so it's potentially 5 more wild cards we can see Aleix, which is really, really cool. Shout out to Johan Mir, who was sitting in 6th before he had his, I'm going to say now customary crash, because it's just, I don't know whether this is just me in my head, but I just the image constantly, I think I've seen more images of Mir off the bike or picking it out of the gravel than I have seen him on the bike. But he's been really quick, but running a really strong P6, it has to be said, really strong P6, and going well before he crashed, which was a shame. Marini, neither here nor there really, but Mir, so again, positive signs. Zarco was a bit quiet this weekend as well. Zarco was
funny you should say that. I was going to say, when it comes to talking about honourable mentions, I can't believe Zarco, I can't remember him doing anything.
Yeah, it was a bit unseen, really. Something else that was unseen was a big crash for the silent assassin of the championship in P4, Franco Morbidelli. He had a really big neg beater of a crash. It wasn't shown on the coverage, and I don't know why it wasn't shown, but it wasn't shown. He's hopefully not too badly injured, but he's got a cervical contusion, which doesn't sound very nice, but I think he might have a concussion as well, and there's a bit of controversy about the concussion rules in MotoGP, so he's missing the test. So get well soon, Frankie, and hopefully we will see him at Le Mans. He didn't take part in the test today because they are resting him, so hopefully we shall see him in Le Mans. Now we're very short of time, so the standings after this round is Alex Marquez snatched the championship lead back. He's on 140 points with his brother only 1 point back. Bagnaia a further 20 back, and then we've got Morbidelli 56 and then Digi 77 back. So I think that top 3 in the championship are just really moving away from the rest of the pack here. As ever, we'll do some really quick rewards, shall we? So awards even. So, Danny, what was your rider of the weekend? Who was your rider of the weekend even?
Now, this is interesting because I know we've not put anybody in the notes or anything, and there's only two possible candidates. So I'm either going to nick yours straight away or not. I'm going to go for Fabio Quartararo as my rider of the weekend.
Okay, nice one. I've got to give it to Alex Marquez then, haven't I? Like, I'm going to do that. It's going to work quite easily. It's good. So, what was your moment of the weekend? This has got a bit more sort of artistic license around it.
Ooh, moment of the weekend. I would say Alex going into the turn 6 when he nearly harpooned Mark off the motorbike. I know Mark hit the deck, but I think that would have been a way bigger issue than Mark just having the spill it ended up being.
Yeah, fair play. Mine is actually Bagnaia, that fight between Bagnaia and Marquez, and it was so good to see Bagnaia being fighty and getting one over Marquez. He won the battle. He obviously won the battle, a really good sign. So that was my moment of the weekend, and that gave me some hope for the season coming on, because, you know, regardless of who your fans are, we want Pecco Bagnaia to be really quick and get in this battle with the Marquez brothers, because, well, if you believe what Jules says, Alex Marquez will never challenge Mark or ever do anything because it's some huge Marquez family conspiracy. But we want to see Bagnaia in the mix, which would be really good. So, also seeing some people in the mix and being really good on the socials. How can people follow you, Danny?
You can follow me on Twitter or X as at Danny Henny F1.
Awesome. You can also follow me as well at Kyle Power F1 on the Twitters. And we will be moving to Blue Sky very, very soon. We'll be back again in 2 weeks' time to review round 6 at Le Mans. Always a huge crowd, but after Quartararo's heroics, there's probably going to be bursting at the seams. So we look forward to that. As always, thanks for listening to Mr. Apex MotoGP.